Minis and Pros and Pro Maxes and Pixels and Flips and Folds. Look, if you're not careful, the deluge of new smartphones this year is enough to drive one a little batty. I'm Chris Velasco with the Washington Post Help Desk, where we help you make sense of the tech in your life. And over the last few weeks, I've been living with 5 of the latest and greatest smartphones out there. The Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3, the iPhone 13 and 13 Pro, and Google's new Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro. If you think it might be time to upgrade your phone, let me try and save you a little time. Let's start with the $800 iPhone 13 and the $1,000 iPhone 13 Pro. If there is one reason to upgrade to these things, it is battery life. If I forget to plug in my phone before I go to bed after using it all day, I still want to be able to use it first thing in the morning, at least for a little while. The iPhone 12s, they struggled with that, but the 13 and 13 Pro pulled it off with no problem because both of these phones have higher capacity batteries. If you're a stickler for image quality and video, the Pro might be worth the upgrade. That's because Apple used a new, larger sensor for that main camera, which makes for better photos and video, especially in low light. And if you want the ability to get closer to your subject without actually moving, only the Pro phones have telephoto cameras. And there's one thing that tends to be forgotten, so I want to bring it up here. Software support is really important, and iPhones generally get 5 years worth of software and security updates, which is better than basically any other phone we'll be talking about today, though Google is starting to get close. If your phone is on its last legs, the battery and camera improvements here might make the iPhone 13 and 13 Pro a worthy upgrade. But remember, on the whole, neither of these phones feel like dramatic updates, so no one's gonna blame you for waiting to see what happens next year. Next up, the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro, which, full disclosure, have quickly become my favorite Android phones of the year, and that's thanks to a few things. The pictures that come out of the main 15 megapixel camera that both of these phones have, those are excellent thanks to Google's focus on improving camera quality with AI. To get the best experience though, you'll have to pony up for the Pixel 6 Pro because it's the only one of these two phones with a 4x optical zoom camera. The Pixels are also packed full of really clever features, some of which are made possible by Google's new Tensor processor. So far, I have used those features to erase people from the backgrounds of my photos, to dictate my text messages faster and more accurately than I've ever seen, and I even get tentative wait times on the screen when I call my bank. These don't always work perfectly, but they're helpful in ways that iPhones just don't know how to be right now. It's also worth noting these phones are pretty cheap as far as fancy smartphones go. The Pixel 6 starts at $600 for the 128GB model, and the Pixel 6 Pro starts at $900, so they both undercut the sort of comparable iPhone. I don't love everything about these phones though. Both have fingerprint scanners under the screen, which don't always work on the first try, and it's worth noting these phones are pretty big. The 6 Pro has a 6.7-inch screen, and the Pixel 6 has a 6.4-inch screen, but they're both pretty close in size, which means they're both a handful. If you have small hands, believe me, it's in your best interest to go to a store and pick one up first. Finally, there's the $1,000 Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3, which is one of the first foldable phones you might actually want to buy. I'd say it's the most portable of the big phones out there because of how it folds in half, and because its screen is more tall and narrow than wide, it's really comfortable to hold on to with one hand. And despite all of the concerns about how well a phone with a bending screen can hold up in the real world, this thing still works as well as it did on day one, even after I accidentally, mind you, dropped it a lot. To me, at least, there's really one thing holding the Z Flip 3 back, and that's its battery life. The iPhones and the Pixels, they both cleared the whoops, I forgot to charge it before going to bed test just fine, but I routinely struggle to get even a full day's use out of the Flip. So where does all of this leave us? For most people, the regular iPhone 13 and Pixel 6 are great options. The stuff you'll find in the Pro models are nice to have, but not game changers, and I don't know that you always have to pay for it. And if you really want a folding phone, look, the Z Flip 3 has a lot of charm, but you have some very real compromises to live with. If you have more specific questions about what phone might be right for you or how these things work, trust me, we are here to help. Send an email to yourhelpdesk@washpost.com. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.